Most people believe they're doing reasonably well financially. They finished school, they found a job, their salary increases every few years. Their apartment looks decent. Their car is newer than the one they drove 5 years ago. They can afford occasional travel. From the outside, life appears stable. But here's a question that most people never stop to ask. Are you actually building wealth, or are you simply financing a lifestyle that slowly becomes more expensive every year? Because those two things look almost identical in the short term, but over 20 or 30 years, they produce completely different lives. And the difference usually starts with something very ordinary, a normal salary. Let's imagine a typical scenario. A young professional in their late 20s, maybe living in Chicago, Manchester, Berlin, Amsterdam, or Toronto. Nothing extreme, just a normal urban professional life. Their salary is about $75,000 per year before taxes. After taxes, insurance, and deductions, their take-home income is around $4,500 per month. For someone early in their career, this feels like progress. They remember when they were a student living on a much smaller budget. Now there's real money coming in. But once the paycheck arrives, it begins to flow out in very predictable directions. Rent or mortgage, about $1,800. Car payment, $450. Car insurance and fuel, $250. Student loan payment, $400. Utilities, phone, internet, $300. Groceries, $500. Subscriptions, gym memberships, streaming services, $120. At this point, roughly $3,820 is already gone, which leaves around $680. And technically, that's where savings should happen. But in reality, something else happens. Life fills the gap. A few dinners out during the week, coffee and lunch near the office, a weekend trip every couple months, clothing purchases, replacing technology every few years, small online purchases that don't feel significant. By the end of the month, most of that $680 has quietly disappeared. Savings might be $100, maybe $200, sometimes nothing. And here's the important part. This person is not irresponsible. They're not reckless. They're simply living a lifestyle that feels normal for someone earning their income. But hidden inside this lifestyle is a very important financial structure. Their life requires their income. Every month, continuously. If the paycheck stops, the system stops almost immediately. And this is where the real difference between wealth and lifestyle financing begins. Most people think wealth comes from earning more money, but in reality, wealth comes from owning assets that produce money. And those assets require something many people underestimate: time. A lot of time. Decades usually. But lifestyle expenses compete directly with that time. Let's take one simple example that exists in almost every developed country: cars. For many professionals, a car payment of around $450 to $600 per month feels completely reasonable. It fits into the monthly budget. Dealerships design their financing exactly that way. But very few people calculate the long-term financial energy of that decision. Let's say the payment is $550 per month. Over 5 years, that's $33,000. But when you include insurance, fuel, maintenance, and depreciation, the real cost often reaches $45,000 or more. And most people repeat this cycle multiple times in their lives. Every 5 or 6 years, a new vehicle, another loan, another payment. Over a 30-year career, it's not unusual for someone to spend $250,000 or even $300,000 on cars alone. Not investing, not compounding, just maintaining transportation. And cars are only one category. Housing upgrades follow the same pattern. Lifestyle expectations follow the same pattern. Technology upgrades follow the same pattern. Each individual expense feels manageable, but collectively, they consume the financial oxygen that wealth requires. Now here's where the psychology becomes interesting. Because most people don't consciously choose the system, they gradually drift into it. Humans are deeply influenced by social comparison. We measure success relative to the people around us. If coworkers drive newer cars, if friends move into nicer apartments, if social media constantly shows upgraded lifestyles, then maintaining a simpler financial structure can start to feel like falling behind, even when it's actually strengthening your long-term position. But the brain doesn't process that long-term math very well. Our brains evolved for focusing on immediate environments, not 30-year compounding curves. And modern consumer systems take advantage of this limitation. Instead of presenting the true cost of things, the system presents monthly payments. A car isn't $45,000, it's $599 per month. A phone isn't $1,200, it's $42 per month. Furniture isn't $5,000, it's $95 per month. Monthly payments transform large financial decisions into small psychological decisions. And once enough of those payments accumulates, the entire income becomes allocated before wealth has a chance to grow. Now imagine two people with identical incomes. Both earn $75,000 per year. Both start working at age 25. But they approach money slightly differently. The first person focuses mostly on lifestyle upgrades. Every salary increase slowly improves their standard of living. A nicer apartment, a newer car, more travel, better restaurants. Nothing extreme, just gradual improvements. The second person also enjoys life, but they treat income differently. Whenever income increases, part of that increase goes towards investments. Index funds, retirement accounts, long-term assets. Not exciting things, just consistent ownership of productive assets. The difference at first is almost invisible. In their 20s, their lives look very similar, but time begins to magnify the difference. Let's say the second person invests $700 per month starting at age 25. With a long-term average return of around 7%, that investment grows slowly at first. After 5 years, it's about $50,000. After 10 years, about $120,000. After 20 years, around $365,000. After 30 years, it approaches $850,000. Not from extraordinary income, just from consistent ownership over long periods of time. And meanwhile, the first person might have enjoyed a slightly nicer lifestyle during those years, but most of their income was used maintaining consumption rather than building ownership. And by their mid-50s, the financial gap becomes extremely visible. Not because one person was dramatically smarter, but because one person allowed compounding to work, while the other constantly interrupted it. Another hidden factor is lifestyle lock-in. When your cost of living rises with your income, you slowly lose flexibility. A larger apartment requires a certain salary. A financed car requires a certain salary. A particular lifestyle requires a certain salary. Over time, this creates a quiet dependence. You can't easily take career risks. You can't easily step away from stressful work. You can't easily reduce hours or change directions. Your financial structure requires continuous income. This is why many high earners still feel financially trapped. Their income is high, but their obligations are equally high, so their freedom remains limited. Meanwhile, someone with lower expenses but strong investments may have significantly more flexibility, not because they earned more, but because they retained ownership of their money longer. There's also a subtle emotional dynamic involved. Spending creates an immediate emotional reward. You can see the car, you can experience the apartment, you can enjoy the vacation. Investing, on the other hand, feels invisible. You're buying future optionality, not present-day excitement. And humans are naturally biased towards immediate rewards, which is why financial systems designed around consumption are so effective. They align perfectly with human psychology. But wealth operates on a different timeline. Wealth grows quietly, slowly, often invisibly for years, until eventually it begins to change the structure of your life. Your investments begin generating income. Your expenses become easier to cover. Your dependence on employment gradually decreases, and something rare in modern working life appears: choice. The ability to work because you want to, not because the system collapses without your next paycheck. The interesting thing is that wealthy individuals rarely describe their mindset in dramatic terms. They don't usually talk about extreme sacrifice or aggressive financial tactics. Instead, they simply maintain a different relationship with consumption. Before buying something expensive, they often ask a quiet internal question. Not, can I afford this, but something more subtle. What does this cost me in future freedom? Because every large expense competes with an investment that could have existed instead. Not every purchase is wrong. Life is meant to be lived. But when that trade-off becomes visible, financial decisions start to feel different, more intentional, less automatic. And over time, those small differences compound, not only financially, but psychologically. Because once you begin building assets, your mindset shifts. Your income stops feeling like something to fully consume. Instead, it becomes something to partially convert into ownership. Ownership of businesses, ownership of markets, ownership of productive systems that operate even when you're not working. That's the quiet mechanism behind most long-term wealth. Not luck, not sudden success, just consistent ownership over long periods of time. So when you look at your own financial life, the real question isn't whether you're earning enough. Many people with good incomes never build lasting wealth. The more useful